Hi and welcome back. In this video we're talking about the map function. In the last video we briefly mentioned when you would use filter or when would you use generator comprehensions. And so I wanted just to quickly say that you'll use filter when you are programming with people who haven't been programming in Python for very long, for example programmers from other programming languages, or just when your project involves multiple programming languages. Python is one of the few programming languages that has syntax like this, so if you're working with many programming languages, maybe it makes sense to use the filter function and that way keep everything consistent. Use the filter function throughout all the languages you use. Also, you'll use the filter function if you have a function already defined and you don't have to create one. That way it can be a bit faster. Finally, there's also something to say for this variable that we're creating here in this comprehension. This variable is pretty pointless, so there's something to be said for not creating this variable here. It's up to you which one you go for, but the main way of deciding, I would say, is whether you're programming with other people who like filter function instead of comprehensions. If you're only programming with Python developers, use comprehensions, and if they don't like it, get them to like it, for it will generally be better. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's talk about the map function. The map function is used to take an iterable and output a new iterable, where each element has been modified according to some function. Let's take, for example, this map here. Friends lower is going to map lambda x lower of friends. Again, very similar to the filter function. It also takes a function at the start that returns something and takes something as a parameter. And what it takes is each of the elements of this iterable here. So the first one is Rolf and returns Rolf all in lowercase letters. Then it takes Jose and returns it all in lowercase letters and so forth. But it produces a generator. So the first time you call next, you'll get Rolf with all lowercase. Let's do that. And as you can see, you get Rolf all in lowercase there. This is very identical to this list comprehension here. Friend lower for friend in friends. And it's of course identical to this friends lower generator comprehension. Like so. Which one should you use? This one. The generator comprehension. Unless you need them all to be in a list, then you can do this list comprehension. When should you use map? Again, like I said earlier, when the people in your team, the people you're working with, are accustomed to using map. That's very popular in other programming languages. Or when you're working with other programming languages at the same time and you want to keep everything consistent. Or when you think it's going to be more readable because some of the functions you've got defined earlier on you can use without having to create a new lambda function. So here's an example of another point in time where you may use map instead of filter. Let's say we've got a class user that defines an init method, including a username and password. And then it's got a class method that is from dict. So given a dictionary of data, it's going to return a user object. So it's going to return CLS of data username and data password, for example. Okay. Now you've got this defined here in the user class, and given that you have a list of users like this one, I'm going to copy them from my notes just so I don't bore you typing them out. Here you've got Rolf and Teclado is awesome and UR2 is the password. Given that you have this from dict function here and you wanted to create a list of user objects from these dictionaries, you could do something like this. And that is user from dict user for, sorry, this should be users list, by the way, my apologies, for user in users. And that would be fine. But I actually feel that a map could be more readable. It's also a bit shorter, but that's beside the point. I just think this is more readable here because you know that you're calling this fromDict function for each element in this iterable. Whereas the list comprehension, you sort of have to read it and you have to create this new variable that is only used for iteration and nothing else. And you're actually calling this function here. I don't know. I just feel like the map in this case is a bit more readable. So keep that in mind if you feel that way too, that sometimes map can be a better choice than list comprehension. And that's just an example there. So that's it for this video. Hope you've learned something about the map function, and I'll see you on the next video.